Da-da-da! What's my good cheer? Welcome, everybody. Let's give YouTube a couple of minutes to get those notifications out. In the meantime, if you've never popped into one of my lives, hi, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And tonight, well, the whole day, actually, I have been puttering around. I have been doing little experiments, repairs, a little bit of getting ready for this trip that's coming up for me in a few weeks. And, making a little bit of movement on my day off outside of that little bit of movement that I do for others, do for myself too, because it is a job that puts the roof over my head. But at the same time, that effort that I put into that job that puts the roof over my head could actually be what puts the roof over my head. It is in my hopes that somewheres down the road, as I become more confident, as I become more comfortable, as you guys become more comfortable, and you start to trust a little bit in, I don't know, that place, that source that I am learning to trust. I wish I had started on this journey 20, 30 years ago, 40 years ago for all truth. But I have to say, I am grateful for that. I have this opportunity. And I do believe, I've had so many people in my life give up on themselves, give up on life itself. And I don't think that those would have even been options if they had a little bit of the information that I had stumbled across in this little bit of movement that I've been trying to make for myself. In that little bit of experimentation. Today, you guys might notice I am getting used to a little bit of a camera's difference here. I've been going up from 720 to 1080, which I should have done a long time ago. But Cindy, being a little cheapo, right, just uses the camera on her laptop. I have a webcam here. I just stuck it up on a tripod. I'm going to play with it a little bit. I do like the 1080. I do like the clarity. The lighting is a little bit different, but that could be something that I can play with in my settings, right? But it is in that practicing, in that experimentation, that we do get to learn to be better. And I have to trust that, I could have hit that live button today and it could have not worked. And I could have set myself in that panic mode because I know I got to show up before midnight. Or I can't say that I show up fresh like a loaf of bread. It's just the way it goes here in this show here, right? This podcast. You could also tell probably I'm still looking at the camera on my laptop rather than the camera that's set up on the tripod here. Again, this is going to take some practice for me, right? But it's the message that is important and not the equipment. And that was one of the very first lessons that I learned along the way. I go live here. I use my laptop. I use webcams, right? I keep it pretty simple here because it's just in that conversation that we're having. And I got to trust, right, in that partnership with Google and YouTube that I'm so privileged to, right, have these platforms, to have this adventure and experience and belong to, well, the YouTube community. Cindy, 62-year-old woman from Winnipeg, Manitoba. and important topics too, right? YouTube, it's true. It's turning into an educational platform. And I just have to trust again that YouTube and Google, that moment that somebody needs that little bit of encouragement or that little bit of insight or information, or maybe it's just a light, bright little story that I'm telling in the moment. But whatever it is, right? I trust, I believe wholly that YouTube, if it is an opportunity maybe to do a little bit of good to help somebody else along the line, that information will get to them. Just like it got to me, just like it gets to me, and just like I trust that it will continue to get to me. No matter, right, if it's something I'm working on right now, or if it's a goal that I've set for so long down the road, possibly decades, possibly lifetimes. Wouldn't that be pretty amazing if Google could track me down a few lifetimes from now and know and be able to untangle the wires itself? I suspect that it'll be able to do that, right? We are getting smarter and smarter and smarter. And innovation is taking that need for us to be smart out of the necessity in our lives. Everything is going to be right. It's going to be done for us. We're moving into an age where well, these technical ideas that we just have in our mind, we're going to be able. I keep looking over here. Practice, practice, practice. Right. That we're going to be able, just like when we were kids, if you're around the same age as me, remember the show The Jetson, that cartoon? Every Saturday morning, it would be the last cartoon of the morning that I would be interesting besides Roadrunner. I wasn't a big fan of Roadrunner, and that was like the very last of the sets of cartoons on Saturday morning before I would scoot out of the house and disappear until it was dinner time. Right? But some of these television shows that we grew up on, they inspired us and they gave us ideas and imaginative opportunities when things, for me, when things weren't going well, I could imagine a better world or imagine a fairy tale world, or imagine something that I never thought could possibly be, right, a possibility for me because I thought and believed a different way. But it didn't stop me from dreaming, right? It didn't stop me from dreaming. And, I did it anyway. And this show, The Jetsons, right? It was all about the future. And you see them talking to their wife at lunchtime from work, and right? And what was his name? Joe Jetson? And he would call his wife and they would be talking on the screen. Computers and monitors weren't even in existence, and yet somebody had the creative idea to right, add that in as part of the graphics of a television show that I grew up in, right? And because not me, but somebody who might have been inspired by the Jetsons, right? And who could that have possibly been? Right? There are lots of amazing people out there, right on the edge, creating things that, we only imagined. And, where we're sitting right now, and this is another lesson, not mine, right? But where we're sitting right now is not even going to be anything that we're going to even recognize in the future. Even in our languages, who's to say that English will be the language 100,000 years from now. Maybe we're not even speaking. Maybe we won't even have mouths anymore in the evolution of, right, the human being. We won't be Homo sapiens anymore, right? Because we are moving forward, and I do believe that when we wake up to some of these ideas, it's kind of an invitation, right, for us to show the wares, to show that what we can bring to the table in the invite of even having a place set for us at that table, that possibly we could step in as the next stage of evolution. And what that looks like, I don't know, might not happen in my lifetime or your lifetime, maybe a few lifetimes, maybe it's 100 lifetimes, right? Because my idea and what the actual idea of the speed of time could be totally different for whoever's in charge of this. This could just be a few minutes, where for us as human beings, well, this could be, right, millions of years if you want to really go back in our evolution. So I don't worry about it too much. I don't worry about it because I do believe that if we were meant to know, that information would be readily available to all of us. But because we delve into these and compulse about these ideas and have these big questions, we go off into realms that possibly, right, probably do us more harm than good. Right? I don't really believe that lots of us should have been waking up to some of the ideas that we're waking up to. I think mostly the, right, the comfortable way, what you don't know doesn't hurt you kind of way, right? Because when you do have a little bit of understanding, it's not comfortable. Just thought of something about today. Before we get back into our 53rd word, right? We got this amazing word tenderness this week, but I don't know. When I come in and the flow happens, Let's just tie it off before we go back into this word tenderness this week. But I think it's important to realize that sometimes we're not really supposed to understand what's going on. But because we have the spidey senses, because our traumas wake us up to different ideas, because our hypervigilance makes us pay attention, because of our fear of who we are, that we run from ourselves in having those conversations, and because of those limiting beliefs, we don't encourage ourselves and be our own cheerleaders, right? So there's lots of reasons why there are hiccups along the way. But I do believe that some of those answers would be super obvious, because super a lot of people are looking for those exact answers and hitting concrete walls. What does that say to me? That possibly, right, it's better off that we just move, right? I'm creating the best human being I possibly can. This works for me, right? It might not work for everybody, but this works for me. This is comfortable for me. And right, those conversations and those realizations and that movement is still happening. I'm able to untangle those wires. And if I really do want to know, if I do start convulsing and just have to have that answer, I guess I know I probably could go off in those directions. But is it necessary? Is it going to get me any closer to where I need to be? Is it going to leave any of the discomfort? It's going to leave any of our discomfort if I am all staring off in that direction when I should be paying attention, right? I'm watching the new webcam, right? It'll take me a few lives, but I do like the color. I do like the tint. I like the clarity. So we'll see. We'll see how this works out. This was just an experiment. I didn't expect for it to work out as well as it did. So we'll see, right? This will make it better that possibly I'll be able to take different positions in in my apartment and make little corners, different stereo studios. You know what I mean? In that backdrop, right? I like you guys never get to see my lights, right? I have a lighted case up on there. My sister gave me that great big huge piece of lucite there. Oh my goodness. Is it possible? Is it possible? Do we want to do this? It's an experiment. Let's do this, you guys. Look at. Oh my goodness. Let's just back up here a little bit. See, you can see a little bit clearer my eclectic kind of style. Yeah, this is going to work for me just fine. Just fine. It's going to take a matter of getting used to and just finding the right spots to make sure. Oh my goodness. That see? You guys, you got a glimpse of my desk here. I tell you, I promise I did clean it numerous times. That's why I said it like that, so you don't get to see all my papers and notes. Oh, I came across some great stuff, some things that I'm working on right now. I'm being called to bring to the table, and I'm a little bit uncomfortable with that process just in the moment, right? And I guess I should have been working and practicing towards that a lot sooner than I did, but I am. And I have kind of tiptoed around the subjects, but I guess I'm being called to be a little bit more vocal in these understandings. I just wish that there were more people that were a little bit vocal on this topic, but I guess somebody's got to take the first step, and I think even though nobody's really talking about it, nobody's really moving towards that, right? I think everybody is just waiting for somebody to make that first step, right? And once I make that first step, I understand that Google and YouTube will pick up that slack, and I will be introduced to people who are thinking in some of these fashions that I'm thinking. And it's not that I'm thinking this. It's part of my faith. It's part of my understanding. It's part of my belief. Oh my goodness, I have no idea what all that noise is. Experimentation day. And I am good with that. Okay, you guys, let's come into this topic of tenderness. I did write just a couple of sentences down that I thought maybe we could look at it. Who knows if I'll be able to find that page again. The tenderness. Okay. So I kind of took a couple of notes, and you guys know that relationship that I had with my father was a very special relationship. It was very dynamic. It might have meant more to me than it did, possibly in respect to, right? He had people, not just me in his life, he had other people that I do believe in his own way, he was mentoring in his own being the evidence, you know what I mean? In his experience, he was never preachy. He believed in what he believed in. And, he expected when we were around him that we would live by those values that he lived by. And of course, we loved our father, and he was the king of his castle. And so we lived the way that he dictated that he wanted us to live. And it wasn't like my dad never raised his voice. He never hit us. In the 70s, it was quite common to, right, a little bit slap your kids around a little bit, right? We weren't so cautious about child and family services coming to pick up the kids if you smacked them upside the head and stuff. It was the 60s and 70s. And again, when we look at evolution and how far we have come along in this social experiment, right, we have come quite a ways, even from when I was a kid, right, that the kids are a lot better protected, and we're actually going after the bad guys, and we're going after the the school system and the leadership system who overstep their boundaries, and we're watching the parents, and it's not like big brother kind of idea, right? But we all have to learn, right? And lots of times kids are having kids, and it's in that experience that you can pass down, how to be a good parent, and how to help the people that you surround yourself with move in a better way, right? But that privilege is kind of like a privilege in this day and age, isn't it? And it's not because parents intend to not do good by their children. It's just because they're too busy putting a roof over their head. They are juggling life, and they're trying to give themselves a little bit of a life at the same time, and they're not offering that tenderness to themselves, right? Very grateful that I had that experience. I couldn't imagine, you know, growing up in that household that I did and not have that balance of what I went through with the compassion and the love and the mentorship and the guidance of my father, and that is the truth. And my dad never laid a hand on us. He never yelled at us. The only way we ever knew that he was angry is he would bite his tongue. And then we'd all scurry to say, oh God, Dad is not happy about something. And we would overcompensate to, right, to make him happy again. My dad was a very tender, sensitive man. And I was believing and thinking of one experience that I had with him when I was, say, 15 years old. It was the first time I had ever done this. And I don't know why I would say such a thing to my father. I think because I'd never done that before. I certainly didn't think that way. But I told my father, I hate you. I did. I said that to I don't know if he wasn't sticking up for me, or he didn't let me do something I wanted to do. But I did say, I hate you. And I didn't mean it, not in any way. It's just like, those little kids that go around and they, right, I hate you, I hate you, I hate you. It was just such a babyish thing for me to do. And my dad, for over a week, stumbled over himself to gain my love back. It was scary. It was heartbreaking. I was ashamed of myself, that guilt and shame. And he couldn't stop himself. He was buying me comic books and potato chips, and right, he knew food was my comfort, that everything he could make better with food. And he paid extra attention to me, and it was so uncomfortable. And I was so sorry that I had done that to him, because he was so sensitive. It hurt him so bad, and it was really upsetting for me to see him stumble over himself that way to gain my love from something stupid that I had said to him. I meant it to hurt in the moment, but I don't know what it was that I thought he had done. He hadn't really done anything, I'm sure. I probably wanted to go to the movies, right? I don't know what it was, but I remember the effect of what I had said, and it went on for over a week. And after a couple of days of it, I had said, never again would I ever, ever, ever say such a thing to my father again. I was so devastated by that. And my dad was devastated by what I had said, just by the evidence and that experience of, of saying that to him, and his reaction in that. I'm very sensitive myself. You wouldn't know that, but that's that independence. That's that sticking up for myself. That's that cheerleader bodyguard. That is boundaries. That is right. Maybe a couple of heartbreaks too many, but it doesn't mean that my heart's not there, right? It's in that hypervigilance, and it's part of that, right? We talk about disguises and being a chameleon. Sometimes it's just hearing that, get yourself up, brush your legs off. Don't be a crybaby, right? Right? You don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all, right? In fact, don't even be seen. You don't need to be seen. You don't need to be heard. You don't have anything to contribute. And so what do? We toughen up a little bit, right? And it's not that we don't feel that way, right? That in our minds we're saying, right, we're heartbroken over that, but we can't let that emotion show. And it's not like I've never let that heartbreak show, or that betrayal show in my life, or that anger, because just like anybody else, I can be triggered, but I try to catch myself really fast, because I remember, right, I had no idea in telling my dad that I hated him, that he was going to be so devastated by that. Didn't even put myself in my father's shoes. If I had known that that was going to happen, I would never, ever in a million years have done that. It was childish, and I was a child, and here I am at 63 years old, 62, 63 soon, 62 years old, and I'm beating myself up over that, right? And I'm sure it has caused me a lot of havoc in my life, right? It makes me a little bit more sensitive to what my words, my actions, how they're going to impact others. And sometimes in that tenderness of understanding that sometimes we have to go a little bit softer. We have to give the bad news in a little bit kinder fashion, that we have to cushion things, right? We have to put that sound barrier up. We have to whisper, right? We have to take people off to the sides. We have to dance around the subject and hope somebody's going to catch the message, right? I wish that in my expression of who I am and what I want to put up there, that could be the evidence, right? I come from a dynamic family where I had a mother who never kissed me or tucked me into bed at night. She never told me that she loved me, right? There was no true physical contact. And sometimes you do, well, it's not sometimes, I would have to say that was my environment, and that's what I picked up in my environment. And I can honestly say that as much as I am my father's daughter, I am my mother's daughter too. But I can put myself in my own shoes, right? In those dynamic, beautiful, loving relationships that I have had, and understand that my tenderness has not gone anywhere. It is there, right? It is there. It's just not always visually expressed, right? Sometimes it needs to be expressed because, well, if it's not expressed, then you never know whose feelings, right, you might hurt, whose boundaries you might overstep, right? Nobody wants to be embarrassed or humiliated, right? Or brokenhearted or betrayed or let down. Nobody wants any of that to happen in their life, right? But sometimes it's only because that we're trying to be too tender. We're trying not to hurt feelings, that we understand that people can't take the truth. So we find that we're dancing around the subjects, right? I do a lot of dancing around the subjects, but that's what this platform is here. And I trust that YouTube will get this lesson to the person who might be able to receive it and get something from it. And if I'm not ready in serving out that lesson, then it just won't be served. And that's okay too, because right, I am part of this YouTube community, and it's given me this platform to practice my craft in that little bit of movement that I'm making for myself, in the optimistic idea that it might be the evidence for somebody else that it can be done, right? That it can be done. We got this word tenderness today, and I was a little bit all over the place with that, but I think that's okay, right? Because that's just me stepping my toes into the water, just checking the temperature, right? Getting ready to share a little bit something else, maybe, maybe, or maybe it's for me to just stand there in the firing line and have my ideas just shot right back at me, and have my own feelings hurt, right? But if it does hurt, I have to trust, right, that I'm just going to come right back with it without that trigger. That's the good one. Without being triggered in that, stumbling over myself, overcompensating, over making up, overstepping my boundaries, overstepping your boundaries, right? And just trust that everything's going to be okay. And that's true. Everything's going to be okay. Experiment a little bit. That's what this platform is here. I've been experimenting for 10 years. It has been a process for Cindy, right? But I'm grateful for the lessons that have come across my path in that 10 years because it's only going to make what I'm doing here a lot more important. And if it's only important to me, right, then it's only important to me. But I suspect in that evidence that I optimistically suspect that I'm going to bring to the table, it's going to be enough. Okay, you guys, that's my good cheer. We'll see you tomorrow.